Hello, hello, hello.
And welcome to the Hildebrand Law Firm topic for today.
I'm Kirsten Hildebrand,
And I'm Matt Kaplan.
and today we're going to talk about some of the most interesting things that we hear when we listen to people give their objections to doing estate plans. So, we are entitling this The Four Myths That You Might Be Thinking About Why You Should Not Get Your Estate Planning Done. And the first one is
The first myth is I don't have an estate. What do I need estate planning for? I don't live on a compound. I'm not. You remember the Carters? One of them was in the Backstreet Boys. One of them was Aaron Carter. Remember one of the very famous episodes of MTV Cribs? It's like, let's go to the Carters compound where they all have houses on there. It looks like a resort. I don't live on one of those. I don't have an estate. What do I need estate planning for? And Kirsten, do you need to have a compound or an estate to do estate planning?
Well, right. So what I find interesting is the way people perceive what they have. Because how many times have you heard, "Oh, we don't have much," and then we start talking about, "Okay, well, what are your assets? Do you have a house? Oh, yeah, we have a house. Is it paid off? Yeah, it's paid off. Do you have cars? Yes, we have cars. Do you have anything in the bank? Well, yeah, of course. We have a checking and a savings account. Do you have a retirement fund? Well, yes. So that's not much, is sometimes what people think. Other times people will think that not having much is even millions and millions of dollars, just what their background is and what their perceptions are. So I think the first point is you might think that you don't have much, but what does the law say? And what does the law say?
I mean, the law says what you have is what you have, and your estate is what's in your name. And so it doesn't matter what the dollar amount is. It just matters what is in your name, what do you have? And going back to your example where people say, I have a house, I have a car, maybe I have a retirement account, maybe I have a small brokerage account, small amount of money here, small amount of money there. All of a sudden, this very modest person is a millionaire
Right.
when they didn't even realize it. And they're like, oh, I'm not a millionaire. I'm just a simple guy. It's like, yes, but you have to realize that a lot of people in their 60s and 70s, they have these homes that have, elevated in worth. They have these 401ks that they don't ever dip into.
Mhm.
All of a sudden, you're a millionaire. But that doesn't mean you have to be a millionaire to have an estate. Your estate is just what you have, and it doesn't matter how much it is. It just matters how much it means to you.
So the state of Wisconsin has said if you have more than $50,000 to your name, we want to oversee how that gets transferred to the individuals that are that are considered to be your heirs according to the Wisconsin state statute. So that's sort of the magic number is $50,000. And I would say the vast majority of people have more than $50,000. And so that's where need to start thinking about, okay, what do I want to do in terms of my planning? So one of the interesting stories that I have experienced myself is I had a client come in and she told me she was about 42 years old or so, and her 50-year-old husband and her 13-year-old daughter all lived together in the same house. Well, they didn't have much of anything, or so she said. Well, he went into one of the apartments that they owned to try to fix some plumbing one day, and he had a major heart attack and never came out of that apartment. That was a huge shock because, of course, they had nothing and they had no estate planning in place. Well, in point of fact, there was over $1 million worth of real estate that they owned. They felt like they didn't own much because it wasn't liquid cash, but in fact, it was a very valuable estate. So we opened up a probate, and it was complicated because, of course, the court was requiring that there be all kinds of appraisals done on the properties and trying to figure out how to distribute. And right in the middle of all of that, a notice gets filed, and it is from an unnamed individual. We'll call him Mike. And Mike says, I am the child of the decedent. What? This was crazy. I didn't
Wow.
believe it. I thought it was a scam. She didn't believe it, meaning the wife did not believe it. She said, in all of my years of being married to him, he never once mentioned that he had a son by a different relationship. And I said, okay, how old is this guy? Well, he was 30 years old. So that means that he would have been born when the decedent was basically a teenager. So I said, I don't believe it. We ended up asking for a blood test. And when that blood test came back, my jaw dropped on the floor because, in fact, it was his son. 99.5% chance it was his son. Well, that turned everything upside down in the estate because now no longer was the wife the 100% beneficiary of everything. Now the wife had to share it. She would get 50% of everything, and the other 50% would be divided equally between the 13-year-old daughter and this 30-year-old son who had just come onto the scene. So this was a double surprise for everyone. I really believe that they firmly thought that if one of them passed away, there would be no issues and there would not need to be an estate, even though all of the assets were in the individual name of the husband. So that was a surprise that they needed to go through probate. And then, of course, the second surprise, can you
Oh
imagine?
my gosh.
Oh, I felt so, I didn't know who to feel more sorry for in this situation. You finding out that there's another direct heir of that decedent.
Right.
All of that could have gotten taken care of with a very simple estate plan. Not that I would have advocated for a simple will in that situation. It should have definitely been a trust, and the all of the real estate should have gone into the trust. However, even if that person had taken a minute to write out a will that said, I want everything to go to my wife, then none of that other stuff would have ever happened. But because he did not do a will, then it wreaked havoc on the family.
Wow. And so that's a fascinating story.
Thanks so much for joining us. We've really enjoyed having you listen to our myth about estate planning. And we are interested in protecting your today and tomorrow. See you next time.